You receive a phone call late at night that your spouse has been in a life threatening accident. You rush to the hospital, and when you arrive there, you're refused information and you're prohibited from going into the room. This is a very real scenario many members of the LGBT community deal with. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump have different views on LGBT issues and what their plans are during their respective terms as president. Understanding Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump's views on issues is important to make sure that you are able to make an informed vote at the election. The United States is a very diverse country that continues to treat members of the LGBT community with inequality, and changes could be made. Lesbian, bi, gay, and transgender Americans are subjected to discriminatory laws and attitudes in their daily lives. In an article by Samira Baird, she shares that there are 32 states that lack non-discrimination protections based on gender identity. We are amongst a growing crisis of violence against transgender Americans. At least 22 trans women have been murdered just this year alone. Many crimes against transgender Americans go unreported or ignored for fear of retaliation. In an article by Kat Kane, she shares that 20 states do not currently recognize violence based on sexual orientation or gender identity as hate crimes. For many decades, lesbian, gay, bi, and transgender Americans have felt discriminated against, harassed, and victims of violence with disturbing regularity. In an article by Samira Baird, she shares that a shocking 74% of LGBT students say they've been verbally harassed for their sexual orientation. Many states have restrictions that block LGBT Americans from adopting children. With LGBT discrimination in the forefront of this election, many people are growing frustrated and beginning to fight back, demanding that politicians make changes. Hillary Clinton has been a vocal advocate for LGBT rights throughout her career, with plans to continue to build on that as president. Hillary Clinton plans to fight for full federal equality for LGBT Americans. She plans on working with Congress to pass the Equality Act, which could ensure equal treatment for LGBT Americans. She also plans on supporting efforts already underway in the courts to protect people from discrimination based on gender identity and sexual orientation. Finally, in an article by Chad Griffin of CNN, it is shared that Hillary Clinton has created the Global Equality Fund, which supports human rights defenders working to protect LGBT Americans in more than 80 countries. In an article by Logan Anderson, Hillary Clinton states that as president, she will fight to make sure that all Americans can live their lives free from discrimination. In the same article, Hillary Clinton shares her plan to increase access to HIV prevention drugs, especially to at-risk people. She wants to increase HIV/AIDS research and invest in the promising innovations that research is producing. She also wants to increase global funding for HIV and AIDS prevention and treatment. Finally, Hillary Clinton thinks that we should cap out-of-pocket expenses and drug costs to make treatment more readily available. Also in this article, Hillary Clinton is quoted sharing her plan to support LGBT youth, parents, and elders. She will end so-called conversion therapy for minors. She will work to fight youth homelessness by ensuring adequate funding for safe and welcoming shelters. She will end what is seen as discriminatory treatment of LGBT families and adoptions. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump have very different stances on these issues, causing a very tumultuous campaign. Donald Trump's stance on LGBT issues has been very vague and inconsistent since well before the presidential campaign. Donald Trump has always stated that he is in favor of traditional marriage, recently adding that he would appoint Supreme Court justices that would overturn marriage equality. He further solidified his stance by appointing Mike Pence as his vice president nominee. Donald Trump has aligned himself with many anti-LGBT advocates, further proving his commitment to taking back the protections currently being provided to LGBT Americans. Donald Trump has made it clear that he would not enforce federal civil rights laws that ensure transgender Americans are treated equally under the law. In an article on the Human Rights Campaign website, Donald Trump is quoted as expressing support for North Carolina's HB 2 law, which limits bathroom access to transgender Americans. He has said that he would rescind President Obama's guidance that trans students be treated with dignity and allowed to use the bathrooms that match their gender identity. Chad Griffin wrote on CNN's website that Donald Trump has also supported state-sanctioned discrimination against transgender people. Donald Trump's direct stance on many LGBT issues are vague, but he has shown the leadership he will provide by the politicians and advisors he's surrounding himself with. He has hired Rick Santorum as an advisor, despite his long-standing opposition to marriage equality. He has also added other notoriously anti-LGBT advocates who all scored a 0 on the Human Rights Campaign congressional scorecard, like Reps Andrew Harris, Steve Chabot, Mike Kelly, and Sean Duffy. Both candidates have vastly different views, each applauded by their parties on what they see as an ideal direction for our country to go in. Although we are seeing what can be described as unequal treatment of LGBT Americans, we can pay attention to the president candidate and where they stand so we can be sure to vote for the person who is most aligned with our views. Both candidates are very outspoken and each feels that they can provide what they think is best for this country. But it is up to us as U.S. citizens to educate ourselves on each and make our own decision in November. Thank you.
Woo! Good job, Holly. Good information.